Shalom to all! Today's daf is Rosh Hashanah daf Beis, the very first daf of Maseches Rosh Hashanah, and today's daf is sponsored Lilu Nishmas Mars Miriam Sarah Basar Yaakov Moshe, her neshama should have an aliyah, and Lilu Nishmas Rabbi Chmil Mordechai ben Reb Chaim, his neshama should have an aliyah. And just like we're starting this Masechta together, we should be to finish it together, and of course, finish all of Shas together. And the Mishnah says, our Bar Rosh Hashanah Mev, there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs. Now usually the word Rosh Hashanah makes us think apples and honey, fish heads, and shofar. Although that is our new year for a number of things, there are a number of other days which are the beginning of a year for something else. Hence the Mishnah teaching that there are 4 different days that mark the beginning of a year. And what are those days? Be'echad Nisan, on the 1st of Nisan, Rosh Hashanah l'malachim u'leregalim, that's the Rosh Hashanah for kings and for Yom Tovim. Be'echad Be'el, on the 1st of El, Rosh Hashanah l'maiser behema, that's the Rosh Hashanah of Maiser behema. Whereas Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon, they argue and they say Be'echad B'Tishrei, that's the 1st of Tishrei. Now the Tanna Kama says Be'echad B'Tishrei, on the 1st of Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah l'shanim, that's Rosh Hashanah for years, u'l'shmitim u'l'yovelos, and for Shemitah and Yovel years, u'l'netia for young trees, u'l'yirakis, and for vegetables. Be'echad B'Shvat, the 1st of Shvat, Rosh Hashanah l'Ilah, and that's Rosh Hashanah of the tree, Kedivra Beis Shammai, that's according to Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel, Iron Beis Hillel says Chamisha Asar by the 15th of Shvat. And now we're going to explain each of these in the Gemara as we approach them. So we're going to first explain what that means, Rosh Hashanah l'Malachim. So it's common practice to date legal documents with the year of the current king's reign, such as in the 1st or 2nd year of King so-and-so on such and such date, the following happened. A new year is determined by the 1st of Nisan. So even if the new king was coronated just a bit before, and then it became Nisan, it's already considered the 2nd year of his reign. But now the Gemara asks, l'Malachim l'mai hilchasa, why do we have to have a specific date for the reign of the king? Why can't we just say that each king's reign is dependent on when he was coronated? Why do we have to have that one set date, which is the 1st of Nisan? So Amar Rav Chizda, the answer is l'shtaros. This is relevant for a predated or post-dated shtar. That down we have a Mishnah. Shtar yichav hamukdamim. If we have a predated shtar psulim, that's possible. Hamucharim, and post-dated shtars ksherim, they're kosher. Now what does that mean, a predated or post-dated shtar? So if Reuven borrows money, then his property is now meshubed, it is on lien to the lender, and if he fails to pay the loan back, the lender's allowed to collect from any property of his, even if it was subsequently sold to someone else. That's what a lien is. However, that's only if it was sold after the loan took place, because there was already a lien on it. But if it was sold before the loan, then the lender is not allowed to collect from it. So if a shtar is predated, then the lender would be able to unlawfully collect from property sold before the actual loan took place, and therefore a predated shtar is puzzle. So how is this relevant to our case? So let's say a shtar is presented to Beis Din stating that Reuven borrowed money from Shimon in Kislev of the king's 3rd year. Now another document was presented which Edom state that they witnessed the actual loan take place in Tammuz of the king's 3rd year. So if the year of the king was determined whenever that particular king happened to have been coronated, then these 2 stars don't help at all, because this particular king's new year could be in between Kislev and Tammuz, or before Kislev, and we wouldn't know which took place first, the actual loan, and only later they wrote the shtar stating that he owes the money, or the shtar was written before the actual loan took place. So by setting a standardized date for kings, there will be no confusion with shtaros. And Tanur Banu, we have a brayso like this: Melch she'amar be'esrim v'tisha b'adar, a king that was coronated on the 29th of Adar, kivan shegiya echad b'Nisan, now the 1st of Nisan comes, that's a day later, also Leshana, his year is counted for him, and now it's considered his 2nd year of his reign. However, if he was only coronated, he was only inaugurated on the 1st of Nisan, we do not count a year for him until we come to another Nisan, which is a full year later. And now we analyze this. Amar Maya was just stated in the Brayso, if he was inaugurated on the 29th of Adar, now that the 1st of Nisan came about, also Leshana, it's counted as a year. Based on top, Kamash Mon, this teaches us that Nisan Rosh Hashanah l'Malachim, that Nisan is the Rosh Hashanah of kings, and V'yayim Echad B'Shana, Chashuv Shana, 1 day of the year is considered a full year. And now that it's 1 day later, but since it's Nisan, it's considered like the 2nd year of his reign. And we continue analyzing the Brayso, which had said, if he was only appointed in the 1st of Nisan, we do not count a year for him until we reach the next Nisan. And the Gemara asks, Pshita, isn't that obvious? He was only appointed in Nisan. We answer, the Chiddush is, the Imru Alei Me'adar. He was actually voted for in Adar. Everyone voted for who the king should be, and he won in Adar. You might think, we should count 2 years. He was voted for in Adar, and he was installed, he was inaugurated, coronated in Nisan, so that should already be considered his 2nd year, Kamash Milan. We only count the year he was actually coronated, which was on Nisan. It's not counted for when he was voted, it was only counted for when he was inaugurated, for when he was established as the king. Now we continue with a 3-part brayso. Tan Rabbanan, Meis Ba'adar, let's say King Beryl died in Adar, Va'amad Achar Tachtav Ba'adar, and they appointed a brand new king, King Shmerel in Adar. Ma'in Shana L'zeh U'lezeh, we can count a year for both of them, meaning for persons writing a shtar in Adar, he could write either that it was the 10th year of King Beryl's reign, or it was the 1st year of King Shmerel's reign. Next part of the brayso, Meis B'Nisan Va'amad Achar Tachtav B'Nisan, let's say King Beryl died in Nisan, and they appointed King Shmerel in Nisan. Ma'in Shana L'zeh U'lezeh. Also, we can count a year for both of them, we can count it as the 11th year of King Beryl's reign, or the 1st year of King Shmerel's reign. Meis ba'adar v'amad achar tachtav b'Nisan. Let's say King Beryl died in Adar, and they only appointed King Shmerel in Nisan. Man Rishon l'Rishon U'Shnei l'Sheni. We have to count the first year for the first one, the second year for the second one. Meaning, if they write a star in Adar, they have to write that it was the 10th year of King Beryl's reign, and if they write it in Nisan, they have to write that it was the first year of King Shmerel's reign. And now we analyze the Brisa. Amar Meir was stated in the first part of the Brisa. Meis ba'adar v'amad achar tachtav ba'adar. If the king died in Adar and a new one was appointed in Adar, man Rishon l'Zeh u'Lezeh, we can pick which one we want to write on the star. The Gemara asks, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Why should you not be able to write that? Both of them reigned in that Adar. So the Gemara answers, Ma'adatema, you might have thought Shasal Beit Trei Lemeninon. We can't count 1 year for 2 kings. King Beryl reigned the majority of that year, so you can't all of a sudden say that now that was the first year of King Shmerel's reign. Really, that was King Beryl's year. So therefore, you would have to write King Beryl. Kamashman, the Chiddush is, since both kings reigned that year, you could write either king. And now we analyze the second part of the Brisa. Meis b'Nisan v'amad achar tachtav b'Nisan. If the first king died in Nisan and the second king was inaugurated in that Nisan, man Rishon l'Zeh u'Lezeh, we could choose whichever king we want to write. Pshita, isn't that obvious? Asks the Gemara. So once again, the Gemara answers, Ma'adatema, you might have thought, Kiamrin, and when is it that we say Yom Echad Roshana Chashav Shana, that 1 day of a year is considered a full year? That's B'Saif Shana. That's only if he's inaugurated at the end of the year and then right away he goes into the new year. So that's already considered the second year. Aval b'tchilas Shana. But if he goes into the beginning of the year and then he dies, Lo Yamrinon, we're not going to say that's considered like reigning for a full year. He died right at the beginning of the new year. Kamashmon, the Chiddush is, that's considered like a brand new year, and we would say that it's the 11th year of King Beryl, and we wouldn't say that it's not considered a year. And now we analyze the third part of the Brisa. Meis ba'adar v'amad achar tachtav b'Nisan. If he had died in Adar and a new one was appointed only in Nisan, Mainu Rishon l'Rishon U'Shnei l'Sheni. If we write a star in Adar, so then we have to count it as the first king, and if we write a star in Nisan, then we count it as the second king. The Gemara asks, Pshita, isn't that obvious? The new king wasn't inaugurated until Nisan. So the Gemara answers, Lo tzricha, the Chiddush is, the Imnu Alei Me'adar, they actually voted for the new king in Adar, and Umelech ben Melchu, he was actually king, the son of a king. He was the rightful heir to the throne, and Ma'adatema, you might have thought, Nimnu Lei Tartin Shnin, that we should count 2 years for him, because he was voted for in Adar, and he was installed in Nisan. Kamashman, the Chiddush is, we only count from when he was actually installed, from when he was inaugurated, from when he was coronated, and not from when he was voted for. And now we continue asking about this date. Amar Rabbi Yochanan asked the following question. How do we know that we count the king's date from Nisan? Why don't we count from a different month? Why specifically Nisan? Shenever, it says in the pasuk, answers Rabbi Yochanan, it was 480 years after Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim. It was in the 4th year, in the month of Ziv, that's the second month, of Shlomo's reign of Klal Yisrael. We compare the kingdom of Shlomo to Yetzias Mitzrayim, meaning all kingdoms to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim and Nisan, just like Yetzias Mitzrayim is counted from Nisan, Af Machal Shlomo and Nisan, so to the kingdom of Shlomo, and for that matter, all other kingdoms are counted from Nisan. Now the Gemara asks, hold on, Yetzias Mitzrayim Gufam Minal Nisan Mininan. How do we know that we count Yetzias Mitzrayim from Nisan? Yes, we left Mitzrayim in Nisan, but they'll only Tishrei Mininan. Perhaps we count it from Tishrei, meaning Tishrei that comes right after that first Nisan of leaving Mitzrayim. Perhaps that's considered the second year of leaving Mitzrayim. So the Gemara says, don't think that. If we have a pasuk that says, Vayal Aaron HaKohen al Har HaHar al Pi Hashem, Aaron HaKohen went up to Har HaHar by the word of Hashem, Vayamas Sham, and he died there. B'Shnas HaArbaim L'Tzeis B'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim, in the 40th year after Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, B'Chodesh HaChamishi, in the 5th month, which is Av, Be'echad L'Chodesh, on the 1st of the month. Uksiv, in another pasuk says, Vahibar B'Aim Shana, it was the 40th year, B'Ashtei Asar Chodesh Be'echad L'Chodesh, on the 11th month, which is Shvat, on the 1st of the month. Dibar Moshe spoke to all of Klal Yisrael, and that's Sefer Dvarim. That's really the whole chunk of Sefer Dvarim, which is Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to Klal Yisrael. And Midukay Ba'av, V'Kar La Shnatz Arbaim, from the fact that this happened in Av, meaning Aaron's death happened in Av, and we call it the 40th year. V'Kay B'Shvat V'Kar La Shnatz Arbaim, and this thing, Moshe Rabbeinu's speech, happened in Shvat, and we're calling it the 40th year. V'Chad Rosh Hashanah Lav Tishrei, who we clearly see that Rosh Hashanah is not Tishrei, and it's Nisan, because these both happened in the same year. And as the Gemara is now going to prove this, but in short, Aaron HaKohen died in Av, which is 6 months before Moshe Rabbeinu's speech that took place in Shvat, and in between Av and Shvat is Tishrei. But both psukim say that these events occurred in the 40th year of the Exodus, so it must be that Yetzias Mitzrayim is marked by Nisan and not by Tishrei. But now the Gemara analyzes what we just said to see if it's actually true. We understand this, which is the first pasuk, talking about the death of Aaron, Mafarish Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's actually explicit that this is 40 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Elahai, however, this other pasuk, talking about Moshe Rabbeinu's speech to Klal Yisrael, Mimadel Yetzias Mitzrayim, who says it's 40 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim? It just says 40 years. It doesn't say 40 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Perhaps we're talking about 40 years after Akamas HaMishkan, which was a year after Yetzias Mitzrayim. So we answer no. Okay, the Amar of Papa, it's like Rav Papa had answered a different question, Shnas Esrim L'Gzeir Shava, that we have one pasuk that says Shnas Esrim, another pasuk says Shnas Esrim, and we use that as a Gzeir Shava. Hachanami, so to over here, Shnas Arbaim L'Gzeir Shava, we have a Gzeir Shava, Ma Kan L'Yetzias Mitzrayim, just like in the first pasuk when it says Shnas Arbaim, that's talking about 40 years after Yetzias Mitzrayim. Afkan, so to over here, L'Yetzias Mitzrayim, the pasuk of Moshe Rabbeinu, even though it doesn't say Yetzias Mitzrayim, since it says Shnas Arbaim, it means after Yetzias Mitzrayim. But the Gemara continues asking, who says the story of Av, meaning Aaron HaKohen's death, happened first? Perhaps the story of Shvat, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu's speech to Klal Yisrael, perhaps that took place before Aaron HaKohen's death. The Gemara says, don't say that. The Chsivit says, at the beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu's speech, after they had struck Sichon, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu's speech took place after Sichon was killed. And when Aaron had died, Sichon was actually still alive. The Chsivit says in the pasuk, Gimel Amud Aleph on the top, Vayishma Kanani Melech Arad, Kanani the king of Arad heard, and this is a reference to Sichon, and Mashmua Shama, what did he hear? Shama Shemes Aaron, he heard that Aaron had died, Nistalko Nani HaKavod, and the Nani HaKavod, the clouds of glory, had left Klal Yisrael, Uchasavar, and he thought, Nitna Roshos Lilachem B'Yisrael, now it's an opportune time to go fight with Klal Yisrael. And V'hanu D'chsev, that's why the pasuk says, Vayiru Kol Eda Ki Gava Aaron, and all the nations saw that Aaron died. And V'amar Rabbi Vo says, I'll take Vayiru, don't read it as they saw, Ela Vayera'u, they were seen. Kid Rish Lakish, like Rish Lakish said, Damar Rish Lakish, he said, Ki, the word Ki, Meshamish B'dal L'shanis, could be explained in one of four different ways. It could either be understood as E, Dilma, Ella, or Daha. If, perhaps, but, or because. And the way the Rabbi Vo is telling us to understand the pasuk is Vayera'u, they were seen because Aaron HaKohen died, because Anani HaKavod had left. So we see that Aaron had died before Sichon died. The Gemara asks, hold on one second. Midami, Hasam Kenan. In that pasuk that talks about this war, it mentions Kenan. It doesn't say anything about Sichon. Hacha Sichon, over here we're talking about Sichon. We're talking about two different events. The Gemara says, not so. Tane was taught, who Sichon, who Arad, who Kenan. Sichon, Arad, and Kenan, they're all the same person. Sichon, why is he called such? Shadaim L'Seach Midbar, because he's compared to a young horse in the midbar. Kenan, the reason why he's called that, Al Shem Achusai, that's because it's his kingdom. He ruled over the Kenani people. And Umash Shemai, what was his real name? Arad Shemai, his real name was Arad. Or Ikadamri, some people say Arad, he's called Arad Shadaim La Arad by midbar because he's similar to a wild donkey in the midbar. Kenan, he's called Kenan Al Shem Achusai because that's his kingdom. He ruled over the Kenanite people. And Umash Shemai, what was his real name? Sichon Shemai, his name was Sichon. So we see that Aaron died before Moshe's speech, proving that we begin the count of Yetzias Mitzrayim from Nisan, thereby supporting our limud that the king's year is also from Nisan. We're going to stop here for the day, but pick up with this discussion tomorrow. For now, everyone should have a wonderful day.